Hello.
There you go. That'll do.
All right, we're live.
We're live already.
Are you sure?
Did we say go live?
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
Well, when you get me the sign, then
You're gonna
Wow.
have extra editing.
Didn't even put my name in the title.
you're not that special.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty
I will
podcast.
cancel this show right now.
Episode number 104 in a row of East Central Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell, joined by co-host Dakota Davis, syndicator Chris Spangle.
Hello.
Today's episode features
Ooh. You guys have
Kristopher Bilbrey.
you got more fancy since I've been here.
Yeah.
Drum roll.
Bilbrey is as I've been instructed to call him.
Now, Bilbrey has absolutely guaranteed he will not be arrested during the live taping of this show. That's all he can guarantee.
No, I can't guarantee.
He is a Patreon member, one of our biggest Patreon member that we actually have.
Huge.
He also is the host of his own show called Perception is Reality. It is on his own Facebook Live. You can search for that. We're going to be talking to him about getting arrested, funny enough,
Nice.
and registering some people to vote, some stuff he does up in Winchester and surrounding areas. Then we're going to talk about the state of Indiana and their teacher pay crisis, I guess, and then some food pantry regulations that are going on in Henry County, Indiana, for some local news. So make sure you stick around to the end of that.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. As always, we promise our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. With dear leader Chris Spangle here, it's going to be an easy one for me. It's like I can push coast and just roll on downhill. He'll end up hosting about 20 minutes in.
That's usually what happens on every podcast I go on, yeah.
You've been making the rounds, dude.
I have been invited on so many podcasts. Like I've done more podcasts in the other shows in the last 2 months than I've done my own show. I went on Frank Caliendo and Al Jackson's podcast.
I'm sorry, who's Frank Caliendo?
Yeah.
I don't know who that guy
the
is.
ESPN guy from Mad TV. He does like a great John Madden, John Gruden. And so he had me on, and then for whatever reason, people were like, oh, I never thought about asking him on. And so I've been on a ton of libertarian and non-libertarian shows, and I've been producing. There's one podcast that I'm working with called Leaders and Legends that it's really great. That's about
with Robert Vane. I've been listening to that.
Yeah.
There was a David Barris episode I listened to,
Yeah.
and there was somebody else.
The one coming out Monday with Lieutenant Governor Mutz and Louis Mahern is really, really good. We talk about Birch Bayh, who just passed away today. Probably one of the most consequential senators in Indiana history.
Wrote two of the amendments to the Constitution.
Right, and he served at the same time with the other consequential senator, Dick Lugar, and they ran against each other. And so that's going to be great, and I've learned a ton about, it's about the growth of Indianapolis and Indiana from Indianapolis into, a place that other cities are coming to visit. Then I've got another podcast that's coming out with a comedian that hasn't been announced yet, but
Wanda Sykes.
Close. So yeah, I've just been really busy, and I've been enjoying it, and lots of me for you all to enjoy.
Well, very good. Well, thank you. After Chase Peyton quit last week, I didn't know.
I don't listen to this
He
show.
didn't quit.
Continue.
He got suspended.
Oh, that's right. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so I don't listen to the show, but what happened? Give me the cliff notes.
So basically, every time that Chase comes on, he drops the F-bomb, and then we have to put the explicit marker on our episodes.
Are we not allowed to do that?
And,
here?
and I said, you know what? That's enough, Chase. I've had enough.
It's over.
You're
Until-
going on leave.
I like that you were the heavy in this.
I was like, get the hell out of my studio.
Yeah, get the.
And until 8 o'clock. Some of our very prominent members have their kids listening, so we promise until 8, Chase isn't allowed to say the word.
Can he just not control himself?
Well, since he started the Budweiser habit, when Budweiser ran the Super Bowl commercial ad that had the windmill in it,
That girl thou art loose.
that was
Yeah.
the end. That was the toilet. He started circling the drain. So
No,
we've gone our
actually-
separate ways for a little while.
Yep.
This is sad. He's the only one on the show I like. Yeah.
Well, we've still got producer Chris Guffey for you.
Remember, it's before 8.
Whatever happened with Tanner?
We let
Tanner's-
Tanner come back on.
Tanner's been
You
back
missed that
on
one,
the
too.
Patreon side.
Okay.
And,
Where you been?
Until Tanner clears up any issues he has with legalities, he's going to take a little break.
Did he do something on a pod? Did he murder someone on a podcast?
Not on a podcast.
Not that I know.
I've almost been killed on a podcast several times. But
He said not on a podcast.
right.
Like it could have happened somewhere else.
Honestly, start that rumor. Tanner Purdue killed someone.
So, to start off the show, we want to thank all of our Patreon members that are $50 and up. Thank you, Bilbrey, sitting to my left here on the right-hand side of the screen. Thank you, Brantley Spicer, Christy Avery, Jonathan Phillips, and Craig DaCosta. Craig DaCosta, this week, I got a package in the mail from Amazon. I didn't order anything, so I was like, ooh, something from the wish list. And Craig DaCosta was nice enough to go on to Amazon.com and look for us and search for our wish list. And he bought us the remaining 2 headphone cables we need to route the headphone amp over to producer Chris's stand over there so that it's not held on by Velcro.
Good
on
news,
the
producer
table leg.
Chris. You'll have one more thing you're in charge of.
One more thing for you to fail at.
My retirement's going up to 2%.
So there's all kinds of goodies on there if you want to help contribute to the show. Thank you to everyone who has in the past. Also, some news, you might have seen it on our Facebook page today, but we are back on T-Chip and selling some apparel on there now, some really good apparel. You can search tchip.com/BHOL1, BHOL2, and BHOL3. They're 3 separate campaigns running for 3 different time frames at discounted prices.
Number 2 is the one I'm the most excited about.
Number 2 is really cool.
That's the one
I
with
threw
the
that in
names.
there for you.
That's the
because
one I requested because I saw Dan Patrick had them made up.
He wants me to buy a T-shirt with his name on it.
Yes.
Dan Patrick
And
had them
mine.
made up, and it had all of the co-hosts' name on it.
It's
Yeah,
a-
but
And
that's
he
the
had-
one he's
and
excited
he had,
about.
He had,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly the one I'm excited about. And he had Adam Sandler wear his when he was performing stand-up
Okay.
on his Netflix
so we
special.
made-
So I
we
watched
made a
that, and I
duplicate.
totally said, Dakota, you've got to rip this off.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled about the font choice, but it's the best he could do.
Well,
so,
look at him. Look at that hair.
yeah.
He likes swoopy things.
It's just a basic sans serif, but I also had I also added the italics because I thought that gave it a nice look. It says Jeremiah and Dakota and Guffey and Cade and Chase.
And Danny's not even on the damn
See,
thing.
Chase and Code.
This is why you don't
Sorry.
put anybody but you two. Trust me, and don't even put each other on the shirt. Learn from me.
Dakota and I have made a very strong lifetime commitment.
Right.
We've been in each other's weddings. I don't know how much more we could do.
We
Doesn't
adopted
matter.
puppies together,
Yes.
Chris.
The puppies don't see each other, but we see each other once a week, goddammit.
I've been in a wedding with another person I don't talk to. But you definitely don't put producers on your T-shirt because they're a dime a dozen.
Not ones that are free.
That's even, well,
I'm paying them under the table. You're not paying them under the table?
You bought him a laptop.
I did. So
What?
funny story. I've been buying.
Daddy?
I figured out. I figured out that you could buy these Lenovo T420s for about $80 to $100 on eBay.
really?
Yeah, and you put a solid state hard drive in, 8 gigs RAM, and they will run Windows all day long. They're phenomenal for what we need. They're
Yeah.
amazing. And you buy a docking station for $20. You take a monitor that Harry Price found for you, and
That's right.
you're off to the races.
Yeah,
so
but what can he do with any of it?
anything. Well, I mean, he
No,
can't
but
do much,
but what can he do with
in
it?
theory, a competent producer could
Right.
take phone calls
Right.
and what's happened?
See that? Let me be very serious for a moment. If you were to turn off a host's microphone at a radio station, you would be fired. It's an immediately fireable offense.
You're done.
Abdul, I did that once as a joke, and Abdul goes, "I will have you fired if you ever do that again." I go, "You can't get fired for that," and he goes,
Oh yeah, you can.
"Oh yeah, you can." And then my boss came in and goes, "Don't you ever do that again."
Yeah.
It's an immediately fireable
Don't you
offense.
ever do that again, Chris. Do it as much as you want to Jeremiah,
Right.
just not me.
So it's a funny bit now, but there will be consequences.
Now I do
So-
it to Harry all the time, but that's because I own the board.
So, Kristopher-
I went crazy buying these things. It's an auction.
We're
It's
still
eBay.
talking about the laptops.
Well, yeah, I got cut off before the sad part. So I bought one for Guffey, and then I had to buy one for my wife too because Sarah needed one. And
Right.
I've got 2 docking stations. I got one at the house. I got one here, so we can
Right.
plug in, and she doesn't have to borrow my other computer. She can run with it now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, good plan. Yeah. I don't want you to have to borrow my computer, honey. How inconvenient for you.
so
My Google is on
Yeah,
there.
it's just-
it's hooked to my phone.
Listen, I've been having trouble with my browser. It's just
I don't know
complicated.
how Spangle put that meme in there. We were laying in bed when the one came through yesterday. I want you to know that.
You don't show it's rule number 1. You
I
don't
know-
show girls that chat.
I know you haven't slept in a bed with a woman in a while, but they are right next to you, and they look at things.
That's not how. No, not in my world. We sleep head to toe. 'Cause that's what Jesus wants. You don't sin that way.
Okay, so, yeah, well, I forgot you were married once, too.
Trust me.
So, anyway, long story short, I wound up buying an extra laptop. So if anybody needs a T420, I have
another bid.
I now own 4 of these. One for me, one for Sarah, one for Guffey, and then I accidentally won one more.
Didn't even offer one to you, Dakota.
He already has the nicest one. Dakota's got a Lenovo as well. I told him a year ago, hey, buy one of these exactly like this, and it'll be identical. Instead, Dakota goes out and buys the brand new Cadillac.
You know, it would be nice,
version of
Dakota,
it.
What?
if he donated it back to We Are Libertarians to make up for the board that he sold.
Does We Are Libertarians need a T420?
I could always use a computer.
What are you gonna do with it?
I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Well, if you give me a good reason,
It
I could-
barely makes up for the $300 that the equipment was worth.
Right. That you sold out from under me. For those who don't know, they're on the We Are Libertarians network, which I started. It was the 7th anniversary.
Wait
It
a
was
minute.
March 8th.
Wait. If I remember correctly, I was your boss at the Libertarian Party of Indiana, and the board voted and allowed you to start this network.
No,
with the caveat
there was no
of
board. There was no board vote. Trust me.
The caveat was that, of course, any board members that remained your friend in perpetuity will be given shows.
You don't have a choice in perpetuity. No, that's not even remotely true.
That's not the truth.
No. And
Frank Frosa, go check the minutes.
it was John Schick then. The minutes don't exist anymore. It's a John. I'm kidding, John. But what was I talking about? Oh, so I basically loaned a board, some microphones, help them get started. You go back and listen to episode 1. I'm engineering it because they don't know what they're doing.
That's like episode 1.5. We tried once before.
Right.
It didn't go well.
And then next thing I know, I'm in a group chat. They're talking about equipment, and Jared goes, "Hey Dakota, we got this thing because we're selling that board." And I went, "Wait a minute!"
And I said, Jeremiah, why did you tell that to Chris?
In another chat. Right. And they sold my equipment without even asking me. And I probably I could have argued for it back.
You were supposed to find out by coming to the show, and we would have new equipment, and you would go, "What happened to the old one?" And we would go, "You know what? I have no idea. I haven't seen it."
I threw it off a balcony.
We needed a digital board. We were trying to get to where we
Right.
could take phone calls, and then you were like, "Oh well, that board really won't do it well. You just
Right.
need to get this other one." And I'm like,
Right.
well, that was permission
That
right
one's
there.
$300.
We'll sell this board and get this one, and we're good to go.
Yeah. Didn't even offer a remittance. There was
So-
no reparations.
Christopher, let's talk about your podcast. Have you undersold anybody that's helped you start yours?
No, so it's not really a podcast yet.
Need any
It's-
equipment?
Yeah. We're getting into
Just stop by
computers
my house and rate it.
that's
That's the
fantastic.
moral of the story.
Absolutely. So basically, what the deal is it's in ends to a mean. I was in a situation in which, in my home community, where I was going to council meetings and I was the only person in the room for 3, 4, 5 meetings in a row. This was going on, and we got into a situation where there was information happening that citizens weren't knowing. They were finding out information through our local newspaper that is written, edited, and published by a sitting city council member, which, in my opinion, is a conflict. See, he laughs. That's the only.
I'm not laughing.
Thank you. I'm leaving. That's the only reason I was here.
I'm just laughing because you think that's abnormal.
No, it's not that I think that's abnormal. I think it's I have a problem with it. I understand that happens across the board.
Have you started a competing newspaper? Yes, you have started an outlet, right?
Yes.
And you've called them on it.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Absolutely.
There's-
And
we don't have government regulation of the media. Mike Pence tried, but it failed pretty quick.
well, so what I started doing was, I would let people know what was going on. I was typing these great big long messages, and people started liking them, and people started asking to be tagged and this. And my brother, who's in Texas, got a hold of
First,
me
by
and
the way,
said,
he's a history maker. First time in history somebody has asked to be tagged in a long Facebook
well,
post.
no, that's not. See, that's why my brother got a hold of me. He said, "Hey, you got to cut it with all the words. They're reading like the first 3 sentences,
Walls of text.
cutting out." And he said,
There are memes about that.
"Start doing videos. I mean, it had just started the Facebook Live, and I was like, okay. So I'm like walking around my garden and carrying on, and then it just kind of developed more into a little bit more. Now I'm kind of hiding in the corner of the room with a flag behind me. It's nothing like this, but you know, the more I've done it, I've thought, you know, why not buy, you know, a Zoom recorder? Why not do it and kind of set it up? So I'm in the process of doing that now. That's why I tag my shows with the numbers FBL, so they're like the Facebook Live videos along with the numbers, and then I'm eventually going to be doing it and trying to put it through like Podbean or whatever and do it correctly.
Yeah, we use Fireside here, and that's very. We're sponsored by Spangle, so it's lovely. All I do is I just upload the file, and it's just there. It's amazing. Find a sugar daddy. It's helpful. Honestly, though, with the support that you have in your community, you could very easily could start a Patreon page and have people start covering the costs and helping contribute. Because when people believe in what you're doing, it really happens.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. And you can start simple. An H6, we use a very basic H6 recorder that if you don't necessarily need the audio to go out, an H6 with a few microphones is enough to record anything.
Yeah.
For about $1,000, you can start your own media outlet.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
I mean, and that sounds like a lot, but really, it's not over time. I mean, you just steal somebody else's equipment, and then you can fundraise your way to it.
You can, you can borrow some, and then if you buy it used, or you steal it from another show, and you're off to the races.
Yeah.
So, whenever we were in this, whenever we were in the group chat that we started for the show, you sent us a bio about yourself, and in it you said that you had been arrested at a city council meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got our attention.
So yes, you definitely got our attention. Watch the videos, listen to you explain what happened. I want everyone else to know what happened. It's a wild roller coaster ride of a story.
Okay, so I can really...
You have 30 seconds.
You have 5 before one of us starts talking.
I can sum it up like this. There was an issue that I had a problem with going on in our local community. Myself and several other citizens had issues with this, and it was something that we'd been fighting for some time. And it was getting heated on both sides, and council meetings were, no one was ever out of line, nobody was ever cursing, nobody was ever threatening, but it was a heated debate.
What kind of issue was it?
So... Here's the situation. In January of 2017, our local government said we're going to put a drug rehabilitation facility in Winchester, which sounds fantastic. We're helping women and children. That sounds even better. But it's going to cost us $1.1 million that Winchester is going to be either getting the money for, that we've got to pay back, or we're using our tax money to buy the building and do all of this. The women and children that it's helping isn't from Winchester. Some of them are, but a very few percentage of them are. There are women from all over Indiana. Now this organization that runs this is also from Ohio, so we're not really sure. We can't get really any information from them. And I just thought that because the city's not running it, it's an organization called the Volunteers of America, which is a wonderful organization. In my opinion, they ought to have come in and bought the building and set up. And I couldn't have said anything about it. I could have maybe griped because it was in my front yard, but other than that, I couldn't have, bitched at the city about it. But with the city putting money into this, you've got the mayor running around giving edit money for to pay for what's it called when you buy a house? The
mortgage?
No. You give the money. So he signed an option to purchase agreement that the council was not aware of. He entered into a loan application with the IHCDA before anybody ever discussed this on the council. There was no votes. And by law in the state of Indiana, the mayors are not able to enter into real estate, land deals, anything like that. That's something that goes before the council. The council votes on it. And it's a big ordeal. So there's all of this stuff that was just happening, and the meetings kind of heat up. There's a lot more that kind of goes into it. But going to this meeting, we're sitting in a meeting. The meeting lasted for about an hour and 50 minutes, at a point in the meeting, one of the counselors say, I make a motion to adjourn. Nobody else said anything, and at that point, a female counselor starts asking questions of the audience. Freeform, okay? Now, they had broke away from their regular protocol of giving us time to ask questions, public concerns, or whatnot, at the beginning or the ending of the meeting. However, they did not do this. This was a special meeting that they had called, and for the first time, they did not let us talk. They did not want us to talk. That's clear. So the counselor asked questions, and there's people in the audience kind of starting to rumble. And my wife says, hey, she raises her hand, puts her hand up, says, she's got a question. And you can hear the counselor say, hey, we're not taking things from the audience. And there's some more back and forth between the counsel asking questions. And at that point, she says, how much would you pay to save a life? Which, that's a cute soundbite. But, I don't know that I want my government asking me that. You know what I mean? Like, let this organization come in and save all the lives that we can. I'm against the drug issue. You know what I mean? I don't. Great. But I don't know that the mayor should be spending tax money to buy a church that he goes to. I mean, there's just, there was a whole lot of dirt going on with this. There's a lot of layers to this. So small
towns, everybody's got 5 or 6 hats on.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So at this point, she asked this question, and Joni then blurts something out, and says, how do you expect me to raise my kids across the street from this? And at that point, she said, we're not taking questions. And I said, that's not a question, it's a statement. That's the first thing I said in the meeting, the whole time, that you can hear that on the record. And at that point, another council member says, no, you're out of order, does that. And the police chief starts walking up. My mother and other people start going. There's more people talking. Now there's kind of talking and yelling between the council and the audience. I'm not saying anything. I get up, and I walk to the door, and I turn around. Someone said, again, you're out of order. And I turn around and say, this is a joke. You guys are a joke. This is all out of order. It took exactly as long as I just said it there, and I wasn't, yelling it. I wasn't cussing. I wasn't cursing. I wasn't flipping them off. I wasn't threatening. I walk through the door. I'm done. I'm out of the building. Okay, at this point, the police officer comes over, says, Bilbrey, you're under arrest. I stop. I wasn't resisting. Pushes me, slams me into the wall, twists my arm behind my back. There's a recording. My phone's recording this because I was recording the meetings. So my phone recorded the entire arrest. My phone recorded the entire transportation to the jail.
Everybody's phone should be recording every interaction with police officers. The ACLU has an app for that.
Absolutely. My phone recorded my entire booking in process at the jail because they never turned it off. One of the jail officers was like, yeah, this is a waste of money. They were agreeing with me. So, you can actually hear on the recording one time I say, hey, I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting. I used to be a police officer. I'm not trying to fight these people. I wasn't mad at him. He's saying, hey, I wish I wasn't, I don't want to be doing this, blah, 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 whatever. So I'm arrested for disorderly conduct. They send up paperwork to the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor of Randolph County had been involved in this argument on my side of the fight. And I think, as he should have done, he said, hey, I want to remove any impropriety or any appearance of impropriety. So he asked for a special prosecutor to look into this.
Robert Mueller flies in over nonsense.
The special prosecutor.
Next thing you know, you're on trial in White County.
Right.
There's been a change of venue.
The special prosecutor on December 26th, 2017, ruled that there was to be no charges filed, that this was politically protected, constitutionally protected political speech. And then now there's a lawsuit. So there's not a whole lot that I can say, as far as going on, because we're still dealing with the lawsuit. Now, that stuff is all, anybody can get that. That's all public record. You can get online. You can hear all of that stuff.
Now, as your attorney, I say I should tell you to stop talking. No,
so you're in a federal lawsuit now?
Yes.
It is amazing how a former police officer who's a concerned citizen, who goes to a meeting, who just says something, then all of a sudden is being beat up by cops. Like,
Well-
at what? Like, I advise you not to say anything here. Like, it just to me is for everybody who thinks that like police officers are the front line of the government you don't like.
They're the strong arm for the state.
That's exactly right, and it's
We put them in terrible positions constantly with this stuff.
well, that's part of it, but there's also just a part of this particular person thinking that they had the right because they wear a special uniform. They have the right to harass a citizen for doing, which is what your lawsuit, I'm sure, is about, where you don't have the right just because you have a costume on. Like, you're not given special rights to put your hands on a citizen just because you think that they're out of order in that particular context. Like, you didn't swing at anybody, you didn't hit anybody, you didn't try to violate anybody's rights in a violent way, you didn't commit fraud, you didn't steal from anyone in the meeting. You just spoke your mind when the government said that you weren't allowed to, and then next thing you know, your face is up against a wall by the hands of a police officer. Like, and so, you know, I can feel Jeremiah's face puckering as I say this, but I really think it has to surprise you as somebody who is, you know, middle America. You know, you just like a regular dude. you don't. There's nothing about you that's. It's not that you probably aren't threatening, but you seem like a very nice man. Like, you're just, you know, other people get arrested. Other people are victims of that kind of behavior. Like, people who are roughed up by the cops, like, those are people who probably deserve it. Like, that's not how it's actually working out in America. And I think that's a lot of what the discussion about, like, police shootings kind of started it, and it's eroded down into a conversation of, are the police acting in a manner that is protecting the public, serving the public, or are they protecting the state? Are they protecting the council?
It's an
or
important conversation.
Or are they protecting Bilbrey? Bilbrey. Are they protecting the public that is there, or are they protecting the council? And this is small town America where this is taking place. This is taking place in Indianapolis. It's taking place in New York City. Taking place in Winchester, Indiana, Newcastle. You know, and I'd like to have more police on to have that conversation of like, why do you think that I would love to talk to that guy and go, why did you think that was appropriate conduct? Why did you think that you had the right to put your hands on him? You know, so
this has started. This was the spark of you getting involved politically over time, or you
No.
you already had a background in this?
No, I grew up in politics. I'm a political junkie, you know, local, state, national, but local politics, I steal it from Tip O'Neill all the time. All politics is local. I'm very involved and very concerned with what's going on in immigration. I'm very concerned with what's going on in the Second Amendment. But I'm affected every day more by what's going on down my street, what's going on up at City Hall. You know, these people that I'm seeing. I was born and raised in Muncie. My grandmother on my mother's side was politically active, a Democrat. I remember when I called, and I grew up a Democrat. I ran in 2001 for Delaware County Clerk as a Democrat. I was 18, you know, and I remember after I went to Ball State, and I went to a political science. I went to the Young Democrats, and we met. It was kind of like an AA meeting. We're sitting around. They're like, "Hi, you're new," and I'm standing up. I'm like, "Hey, I believe this and this and this." And they're like, "You're not a Democrat." And I was like, "Yeah, I am. I'm a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat." And they're like, "What do you think about this?" And I'm like, "This, this, and this." And they're like, "Yeah, you're a Republican." And I call my grandma, and
It's a
she's
big
like,
tent.
you know, it's like,
so I call my grandma
down the hall. I mean, it was like,
and
you
she reveals the horrible truth.
Oh, God.
She voted for Reagan.
Your grandfather was.
No, she was a Democrat. She passed in 2016. I would call her a Kennedy-crat. She's not today's progressive, far left Democrat, but she's
Grandma wasn't a Bernie bro.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So, you know, I've been politically active for a long time. Went to council meetings in Muncie when I lived in Muncie. Was very concerned with what would happen. I've been politically active on campaigns for prosecutor, for sheriff, for coroner, for recorder. People don't even know what the recorder does. You know what I mean? But I've been on the backbone of those local campaigns. Moved to Winchester in 2010 and said it's only going to be a matter of time until that itch. You know, it's kind of like being a junkie. You know, I want to go down to the meeting and see what's going on. And so I started attending. I ran for city council in 2015, and I lost. I congratulated the person that beat me. We moved on. The next day, she calls my work. She calls my brother-in-law's work from the school office complaining about this campaign we ran against her. The next day, it's nuts. And so I even give her the benefit of the doubt after that. We go to the council.
You're like, lady, you won.
Yeah, so we're in a situation where our mayor is Democrat and the council is completely Republican. And I was very big supporter of this mayor. This mayor is a first-time office holder.
Sean Byram.
Sean Byram, first-time office holder. He's ran for office since 2011, ran for council, ran for state representative in 2014, ran for mayor and won in 2015, which I was very instrumental on campaigning for him, part of his team, really helped him. That's as a Republican, that I consider myself. And so voted for him, pushed him, considered myself friends with this man. And what I found is...
and then he has you arrested.
He straight out off the bat, 2016 is rolling around and things start, not adding up. Things that he's doing, things that he says. It seems like he's bullying over the council. We've actually had a council member in a budget meeting say, I'm not going to be bullied by you until next meeting, and then next meeting rolls around and he bullies over them. And so it's just been, at first it was this fight.
Mayors do that.
It was just this.
They're really good at it.
Well,
Some people are destined to be mayor of Newcastle, right, Dakota?
Who?
Jeremiah. Let's run him.
He can't. He doesn't live in the city.
Neither
Four
does
There's an
houses away.
apartment upstairs.
Oh, yeah, but then, Dan Quayle, Birch by Richard, or not Birch by,
Richard
Evan
Lewis?
by. You don't need to live where you actually serve.
All you have to do is keep 2 shirts there.
That's right. No, I think your story is kind of common. There's 2 constituencies that every politician really serves. Their constituency, which is ever increasingly influenced by cable news and that brand of politics. Like Donald Trump sounds like every Republican that ever called the talk radio station that I used to screen phone calls for.
Yep.
But his
And now they're all boomers and voted for him.
right. But like Lee from the South Side doesn't reflect the other constituent that an elected official has to serve, which is their fellow lawmakers. If you're in Congress or if you're in the state legislature or a town council, you have to get along with each other. You have to work with each other, and sometimes the nastiest fights are intra-party, not like.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a Democrat, you expect a Republican to oppose you, but if another Democrat opposes you, that's when it starts to get like real nasty, and people don't forgive easily, and so.
Well, when you get into smaller communities or the rural communities like we have here, we have one-party rule.
Yeah.
Our county council is 7 Republicans. Your city council is all Republicans.
And
Our city government here has 1 Republican in the entire city government. The rest are Democrats. You end up with one-party rule, which means they all turn on each other. It's not party at that point.
Yeah,
It's individual personalities.
The tension is between, a Tom Saunders. The last time I was here, Tom was on. Tom Saunders is a great example of it. Here's a guy who is in rural Indiana trying to please his constituents that he sees in the grocery store, who look at politics through a national lens, which are diametrically opposed to the way that things actually operate. Like if people actually knew how a town council
Yes.
works, they'd realize that it was nothing like the West Wing or what they see on CNN. But if you're one of these elected officials, if you're Tom Saunders, you also have to make Brian Bosma happy and party leaders, or else they're going to run somebody against you. And so if you're even if you smell a bit of outsider, like what's happening to Jim Lucas right now is they're trying to make him look like he's an insane person who's fringe, who's a conspiracy nut, who just gets high all the time. He's a joke. Instead of going, no, that guy's actually really courageous and saying things that nobody else wants to say, and he's balancing, he's listening to his constituents, he's listening to his fellow lawmakers, but he's doing what he thinks is right, which is what he was elected to do.
Jim Lucas has been really on the forefront of this whole school and state teacher pay issue that we're going to talk about here. He's been on the forefront of this. I want to read a few paragraphs that he wrote later on in the show because he conveyed my feelings very well on the subject, and then just got attacked.
I was just on the Boss Hog of Crothersville, the Married with Children podcast.
That's his district, isn't it?
It is. They love him, even though they're teachers. But I think what you've experienced is what a lot of people, when you get into politics, like you get into it thinking one way, and then you find out it's a different way, where you're all of a sudden the problem. Like all of a sudden you're the odd man out, because you're a problem. You're not conforming to what the established order wants. And so they try to make you look like a crazy person to the constituents that they know and the other like little power bases. And it has to get kind of alienating and irritating for you just because you have a different way of thinking, right?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, the thing is, it's like I've been clawing through the mud. Now we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel here.
You've been well received. You've had a number of people very supportive of your show and coming on.
Absolutely. And as a part of this, you know, one of the council members who was involved with all of this has resigned. The police chief who was involved with this, who was actually the one that arrested me, has resigned. The fire chief who walked out and was part of the arrest has resigned. You know, they're no longer a part of government, which that's a plus for me. I'm happy about that. But the biggest thing that I have to say that stops what you were talking about with Jim, with people making him look crazy, is they can only make him look crazy if the people out there buy that.
Yeah.
You can only have better government through citizen involvement. That's the number one thing. I say that all the time. You will only have better government through citizen involvement. If you stay at home and you let somebody else do it, it's not going to get done the way that you want it done. And if you've got people like Jim that you support and people are saying, oh, he's crazy, he's a hippie, he's a pot smoker, Bilbrey's crazy, as long as you're not standing up, if you're not willing to stand up with me and I've had people who talk to me behind the scenes and say, I support what you're doing. I really, you know, we need to get rid of all these people in office, you know, all of this. Come out, help do this. No, I'm afraid. Listen, if it's just me, they can bully over me.
Right.
But if it's 10 of us, if it's 50 of us, if we're going to the vote, Winchester's got 5,000 people. 3,500 are registered to vote. 800 people have made the decision for the last 30 years. Now, last election, we changed that. Sean Byram got defeated for state representative. He's no longer running for re-election of mayor. We are making some change. People are waking up. The apathy's kind of shaking off. The other 2,700 people need to wake the hell up. You know, and we are waking them up, but that's got to happen everywhere. I got involved with Gaston. There's craziness going on in Gaston, a small community. There's like 900 people up there. They're firing the police chief without merit hearings. Two of the board members go off and have parties together. I went up there to help them because the citizens asked for help. And I went up there, and the lady told me that one of the board members said that the two board members could get together and have cookouts and hang out outside all the time. I said, no, I think that's an open door policy. I mean,
How many
I think
board
you're
members
really,
are there?
There's 3.
So
it's a quorum.
Two's a little much, yeah.
I mean,
You know.
I don't hate that legislators are friends with each other, but you know, I see your point.
Well,
But I think that's where the brilliance of like what this show has done, what you're doing with when you become media, like you're doing the accountability work that the local media can no longer afford to do or no longer has the willingness to do. When you put it on camera, and like really part of the impetus of this idea was your parents, Jeremiah, because I would travel the state as the former executive director of the state party, and I'd go to a community, and there'd be $100 million project that some county council wanted to build in every county in the state. And when your parents showed up with a video camera and put the meetings on YouTube, those meetings got canceled or those deals got shut down, and the sunlight disinfected that bacteria. I mean, it was amazing.
Yes.
And they took a lot of heat in Rush County for just providing transparency like you're doing. And it's not hard. All you have to do is show up with your cell phone, put up a tripod, and then stream it to a Facebook page.
Yep.
That's literally all it takes.
The important thing, I guess, is to be involved, and you say citizen involvement, and that's a big deal. But to be engaged and understand what's going on in the long term. Because if you come in and you just see what's on the agenda today and you freak out over it, you don't know the full story of what's happening as well.
Yep.
So it's important to do what Guffey's done. And how long have you been attending city council meetings? Months and months and months now?
I think end of November.
Yeah, so you're
And I haven't
going on
missed a
about
one.
6 months of meetings in a row, and you've done the same thing in your community where you actually understand what it is. So you're not coming in and spot sampling, but you actually have a full track record, and you understand how Part A fits in with Part B, fits in with Part C, and you know when, hey, this is routine, not a big deal, and this is, oh my God, this is an issue. Because you can't, if you cry wolf constantly, people
Yeah.
won't listen, right?
Yep. Well, and what happens is I notice a lot of my detractors, the mayor's friends and the council, the 800 club, the people that are voting that are friends and have something to gain with
That's
these people
100
being
better
in-
than Pat Roberts.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Damn, you
Or
beat
worse.
me to it. You had the better
Great
joke,
minds.
and you beat me
What,
to
what was
it.
your joke?
It was just going to be it's the sequel to the Pat Robertson show.
Well, and the problem that what they say is, well, you spend too much time on this, and I'm like, okay, so I go to 2 council meetings a month. Let's say that's an hour and a half each. I drive to work 45 minutes. I got a lot of time in the car. I know people who play Fortnite for 20 hours a day. I can spend 6 hours a month on this. That's not that big a deal.
Right.
I could spend 12 hours. I don't Fortnite. I don't do all that. So I think that people
The state won't let you sell a car on Sunday. You got nothing better to do.
they need to
You'd be in cuffs again.
Absolutely. They need to do a thing. Here's what needs to happen. People need to pay attention. They need to spend a little bit of time learning what's going on. They need to go to meetings and ask questions. They need to get involved, get pissed, be happy, praise the people when they do something right. Get involved, get active, ask questions, get registered to vote, and run for office. It's not that hard.
The people at the Statehouse made a lot of teachers pissed. This was our segue to move on to the state
Very
teacher
eloquent.
pay.
That was good. You're really catching on.
Here's the situation. There was a bill that was proposed. I think it was in the
The
Senate.
situation is I'm paying on my wife's student loans, and she's not a teacher anymore because being a teacher is terrible.
There
It's broken.
There was a law that was proposed. I think it was the Senate that was to make all districts, all local school corporations, make their starting pay $40,000 a year for teachers. They did a study, found that only 30 of 287 school districts across the state actually started teachers' pay at $40,000 a year. Got shut down almost immediately in committee.
So if the state's going to mandate it, are they going to offset those costs? Because I'm sure.
Well, yeah. This is the whole big issue, and this is part of the few paragraphs I wanted to read from Jim Lucas. But basically, they wanted to take control and say that this school corporation has to start the pay at $40,000, no matter the size of your district, no matter how much money is going into your district, the school size or the population of your county where you get most of your funding from. Because ultimately, teacher pay is funded and decided by the local school corporations. So a bunch of teachers got mad that this didn't happen. They said #wear red for Ed, and they showed up at the Statehouse and started chanting slogans and all kinds of weird things. But there were hundreds of them stacked on all 3 levels of the Statehouse. Jim Lucas was live streaming it.
It's an understandable, it's as a demand, it's a reasonable place to be. Hey, I don't want to work for this rate of pay. It's not worth it. I can go earn my money somewhere else.
And it's not a great job because of the administration.
So it's how do we get there? Everybody, I think universally, everybody has the same goal of yes, teacher pay needs to go up.
Right. No, I don't think even, I want to abolish public education, but I want teachers to get paid $75,000 because it's a private institution.
You want happy teachers teaching your children.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think the bureaucracy is really centralizing the bureaucracy a level up doesn't seem like that's actually going to solve anything. What? It's so that's where teachers, and I hate to say this because teachers are very touchy. I've already beat up on police.
Yeah, you're just going for the bingo here. You're gonna go.
Police, teachers, parents, and waiters and waitresses.
You're going to hate on firefighters next?
Are the touchiest. Firefighters are
Everybody
cool.
loves firefighters.
Everybody loves firefighters.
Dakota has
No.
a statement to read.
I do. I want to read this real quick, Chris.
We'll read it into the record.
All right?
Mute us all.
Just go ahead and make it seem like I hate teachers, so I can't finish what I was about to say. It's okay.
Jim Lucas says that public education is, in fact, government-run education, and they get over $7 billion of the state budget every year, which is 52%. They also get 40% of all the property tax dollars across the state, over $3 billion, and over $1 billion in federal dollars. So a bunch of money. That means that they're reaching, there are over 1 million students in the state of Indiana, just about 1 million, and he has the math here. So basically, the state of Indiana is spending $10,000 per student, and the average teacher in the state makes $55,000. So a class of 25 students is worth to the state about $250,000. So if you take the teacher pay, average teacher pay from that, that leaves $195,000 for the average classroom size of 25 students. So he's making the point that the bigger question that we need to ask is not to throw more money at the state's education budget, not to throw more money towards the corporations individually in hopes that they send it towards teacher pay. It's to ask, what's happening to the other $195,000 per classroom?
Yeah.
And that's not just high school classrooms. It's first grade and public education kindergarten classrooms as well. It's everywhere. And it's he goes on to talk a little bit more about this. So we spent $3,200 per student in the state of Indiana last year. That's a lot of money to be teaching one student. And then also, let's see here. This was the other good number I wanted to see. Oh, for every teacher, there are 2.5 non-teaching personnel in the education departments across the state.
Right.
Non-teaching personnel. That doesn't include aides, your teacher aides, which are getting cut almost constantly across the state in every single corporation we have. So the issue isn't throwing more money at the problem. It's figuring out what the heck's happening to the money that we already are throwing at the problem.
And centralizing standards has only made the job even worse for teachers. So centralizing their pay scale, like I don't understand. Like
we want every teacher you talk to says we need to get the government out of here so that we can actually do our jobs and teach students.
Right.
And you're like, yes, I agree. Get the government out of it so that you can do your job. And then they say, we want the bigger government to take control of my paycheck?
Well, there's been a lot of conversation about abolishing the position of the state superintendent of public instruction, or at least I think appointing it as well.
No longer an elected position.
Yeah.
It's not a constitutionally required. I think it's constitutionally required office, but how they get there is up to the General Assembly to decide.
So because of the Owenites and New Harmony, we have to have public education in the state of Indiana. There has to be a public alternative according to the Indiana Constitution.
Nice. I like how you threw in the Owenites and New Harmony.
Yeah, yes, they were, well, Robert Owen and the socialists, really they were one of the first socialist utopias with the Rappites and then the Owenites, and they failed within 3 years, I should add. They helped write the Indiana Constitution, so that's where that comes from. But I would just ask teachers, like, if you have a hard time going to your school district as a union to get raises, imagine, so there's what was it, the number 200 and, I'm scanning here, 287 school districts. So instead of 287 negotiations, you're now going to have one.
Yep. For all
of them. You are
the same negotiation happening for IPS is happening for Tri High School, which has a graduating class of 68. Right.
And my in Plainfield where I grew up, it's around 300. And so that school district, you have the ability to have a relationship with the people that are making decisions about your paycheck. Like there's some weird thing where people think that in government that the people who are deciding on government pay don't really care. But the truth is they do care. If they could pay teachers more, they would. But the problem is that the nature of bureaucracy does not allow for that because it limits the amount of resources that are available through both waste and inefficient organization. And so if you want to make the organization even more inefficient, so waste is even more likely, it is 100% chance that if you were to organize 287 school districts into one negotiation,
you have to have new levels of bureaucracy, totally new, introduced, and all those people have to be paid. So now we have 4 administrative positions to a teacher in the state.
You said
think of the appeals. Think of how many more appeals you're just instead of 1 out of 20 a year for a school district. you're 1 out of 10,000, you know? And
Right.
so you're really doing yourself a disservice by trying to centralize this, but they think that if we centralize this, we can have more of a hammer and influence this more, but that's not how it works. You're just making the resources more inefficient for organization.
If over 52% of the state budget is going to that, throwing more money is not the problem. The burden is on the school boards and the local districts to find efficiencies, whether it's consolidating school districts because we have, as much as we like the identities of having different school districts and schools here, we're a county of 50,000 people, and I think kids go to 6 different public high schools in this community. You have some school districts that are in the, they're not even to 1,000 students in the entire district.
Yeah.
There's some efficiencies there, and there's just some.
The people
You're spending so much money on cost and overhead and non-classroom related labor.
Yeah. And it makes it easier for those people to be bought off. It makes it easier for special interests to influence those people.
And help me understand this. Okay, so he later on in his essay, I'm going to call it, he said that expecting to change this system by more government is futile, and the only solution is to remove government from this system as much as possible. And he's got 217 comments, the vast majority of them calling him an idiot, crazy, a pot-smoking hippie. What is the
That news
the
broke
thinking?
on our show, by the way.
I don't understand. Whenever I read this, I thought it's common sense. Like, there's the numbers right in front of me.
Because people don't read, like, you. I have, and Bilbrey, you're going to have to just jump in here whenever you're ready to talk. But
You're good.
It's a doghouse.
I have, as I have been put in charge of ever expanding audiences. So as I have been given more responsibility, more people to look at, like as I am a social media manager for several different outlets, and I have, as those have grown, I have seen the stupidity increase. There just when you think you've reached a new level of idiot proof, people just totally surprise you. I think that Facebook is a really poor way to communicate because the comments, like people don't, it's just like exactly what you said. People don't read what you write on Facebook, but they may watch a video. But I run into it all the time. Like, I'm not going to watch your stuff. I tried it. I didn't quite get it, or it's too long, or there's always some superfluous reason why people don't want to engage in something that improves their lives. Like, why there's a resistance to the gym, or why there's a resistance to reading the news. It's just always easier. I have found it to be the human condition that the path to least resistance is the default state for people. And so reading and understanding what he is saying it takes work.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to default to the, like, why is Beto O'Rourke popular? Beto O'Rourke has no experience.
Fabulous teeth.
He
talks in sound bites.
He
right?
looks the part. He seems the part. He looks cool. He reminds
He's the white
you.
Obama.
He's the white Obama. And so much of what politics has become is fashion.
But he's Irish.
Are you wearing the right fashion?
You saying that Irish people aren't white? Man, I thought we got over this racism in 1912.
Well,
He's Irish Obama.
yeah. So, and I almost went on a tangent. I'll tell you off air. But that's why. So to disagree with teachers, to have this conversation with a teacher is perilous. Because you're going against what is popular. You're saying that what you believe is wrong when you may have to go and stand up to 150 teachers in your school district and be the only one that agrees with Jim Lucas.
There was one teacher in his comment thread that said, "Yeah, I totally agree." She's like, "I love my job because what other job am I going to make $55,000 this year and have 2 months off for the summer and have every single break and day off coordinated with my children?" Yeah. And man, it was like she jumped into a tank of sharks, and only God was there to protect her.
Teachers get a week off next week. Yeah. And I'm sorry, like, I work from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. most days. Like, you're not right. Like, most people, you don't know how hard teachers work. You work like everybody else. And so I just, like any other government employee, when you take money from me, I get to have a say in how your life operates. And if you don't want me to participate in your life, don't voluntarily choose to ask me to participate in your life by taking my money. You're a government employee, and so why would you want to expand from your local community to all Indiana taxpayers the decision on your pay?
It took 60 minutes, and he almost said taxation is theft.
But it's the truth. And so I almost joked about it earlier with him when he said, people are outraged in the community. I was like, by having their money stolen? but people don't want to be disagreeable. They want to appear polite. But what the world needs right now is courage. They need people to stand up and say you're wrong.
I don't see why I don't see how this has become such a disagreeable issue. I don't understand it.
Because people feel threatened. And so when you invite the government into the equation, it is the very nature of government is that it is force. And if he's pro-life and I'm pro-choice, and we're wrestling over whether I'm going to get to put the gun to his head to live my way, or he's wrestling to get the gun to put it to my head to live his way, that division, that's why we have so much division in our society right now. And so these teachers, I feel for them because they feel threatened. That's why they're on the defensive on Jen Lucas's position. They feel attacked.
Well,
But that is because they're using the government to solve their problem of educating children, to fund it. And we never go to the root of the issue, which is that you're asking people to be involved in this decision, and then you're just like, our brains can't handle it. Like
I had somebody just Facebook over the weekend who was complaining about Jim Lucas just as a state rep, and complaining. I'm like, do you know the guy? Like, have you really had a conversation with him? Do you know who he is, or just the boogeyman? And, just challenging them to think and not just parrot something out. And the response I got back was, yeah, Jim's just an a-hole. Like,
right.
But the problem
we can't even start to have a conversation sometimes, people.
The problem is sometimes, as well as this is kind of what I would call a squishy, feel-good, topic. So teachers are hard to fight. When you're dealing with somebody that fights with emotion and not fact, similar to this. So in my situation, I was called the asshole because I didn't want to help women and children. This, you don't want to help teachers? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying let's use our common sense. Let's fight factually,
No,
not
it's
with
saying
emotion.
I want to help teachers. I want the teachers to have a raise because I don't think that a teacher making less than $40,000 is fair for that work.
No,
I
it's
don't. I
not.
think that your labor is worth more than that if you are a teacher, because I wouldn't do that job.
I think
And I go to work and I deal with thousands of volts of electricity every day.
Right.
And I wouldn't walk into a classroom. It's not. That's a threatening environment.
The
to
other
me.
part of it is, I'm not anti-teacher. I want teachers to have the opportunity to choose several different places to work in a community,
I want
as opposed
them
to just
have
one choice.
more freedom,
Right.
in their jobs. And the only way that they get more freedom in their jobs is by, one, getting the raise and cutting the bureaucracy that restricts the freedom in their job.
Right.
You kill two birds with one stone doing that.
Yeah, the centralization of these decisions, like testing, for instance, under No Child Left Behind, that has made education, the job of teaching, and the job for parents much worse. Like taking control from the local community and putting it in Indianapolis and putting it in Washington, D.C. has made the job worse for teachers. It has made the educational system worse for everybody involved in it. And I don't want to continue that behavior. It's not a matter of not supporting teachers. It's a matter of saying to teachers, I may not agree with the solutions. I support you.
Yes.
But I don't want to make your situation worse. I want to stop the insanity. Like, it's hard to fight teachers when they're the only major union with a building across the Statehouse. The building across from the Statehouse is owned by the State Teachers Union.
The Indiana,
ISTA. There's another ISTA branch right by where I work on the east side of Indianapolis. Like, this is a very powerful organization of people that Tony Bennett lost to when Glenda Gritz got elected. No politician wants to take them on because you're arguing with people from an emotional perspective. And that is the whole point of trying to throw everything into the arena of politics, get people emotional, because when you're emotional, you're easier to control.
We will put a pin in education talk at that point. You're listening to the Boss Auto Delivery Podcast. Jeremiah Morrell, Dakota Davis, Chris Spangle, our syndicator, Bilbrey on the other side of the room, and producer Chris Guffey. How we doing, Chris?
Doing well. Just working on some campaign stuff. Over here.
Oh, you're not working for us? You're just doing what you want to do?
I'm telling you, he's a bad egg. This is Veruca Salt.
On the company laptop, no less.
This is what you get for free, guys.
Suck him up and put him into whatever they did with the other kids.
So we're going to move on to some more local issues.
So Sunday, in the Courier Times, Travis Wyke Week, whatever, Travis Budweiser wrote a big story about. He's the editor now. He can do what he wants. So he made himself the cover page. The headline is, "They deserve to have safe food." Apparently, the Henry County Health Department has started regulating and checking up on food pantries in our community.
Yeah. So apparently in 2008, the state made some new regulations about food pantries, and they threw food pantries underneath of this umbrella statement of food establishments. Which meant that they have to go through all of the processing fees and the licensing requirements and the inspections that a restaurant right down the street would have, even though they're just giving out canned food. And when I thought somewhere in here in the article there was a point that said, well, it may seem like a bad thing at first, but now they are able to serve fresh produce. So really, we're just trying to get the homeless people healthier food, because fresh produce is better than canned produce whenever you're starving on the side of the street.
Yeah.
First of all, clarify. You said 2008, not 2018. So this was like
yes.
11
in
years
2008,
ago.
the
It's 11
authorization
years
was put
ago.
into place, and the health department has now gotten around to
Wow.
the enforcement side.
Wow.
Well, didn't we get a new health inspector or something? And they said that it's
With some staff
time.
changes, it's caused them to get around to it finally.
Right. So
This is not just a Henry County issue, and that's
Right.
one of the things we talk about on the show. In discussing this, we've seen articles from all over the country of
It's what our
health,
ad.
a health department.
That's what
in-
our ad in the
that's right,
Indiana
you got-
State Libertarian Party Convention says. Local stories, national impact.
So this is happening in Henry County, but there's a story from late last fall out of Kansas City of a health department that came by a group of people that were feeding folks on the street, and they poured bleach in the food
yeah.
because they
Because
couldn't
that's
prove
serving
the
as
Because they want to make
protecting.
it right.
Safe food.
they couldn't prove the pedigree of where that was made and wasn't made in a safe serve kitchen, and you have a voluntary exchange.
Might have been picked
where-
some by some illegals in California.
Well, as you know, feeding the poor has only really picked up in the last 50 years. So we haven't really done a good job of feeding the poor as human beings up until the last 50 years when government came along and started overseeing the process.
Counties.
No. I'm being
you're being
facetious.
facetious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally the entire
I was like, wait a minute.
the entirety of human history has existed on people feeding each other and so this is just the folly. Like if you mandated that only preschools were allowed to teach kids how to tie their shoes and parents were not allowed to be involved, within 5 years everybody would think that only the government could teach kids how to tie their shoes.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the case. Now, I go to Mount Pleasant Christian Church on the south side of Indy. It's a mega church. They have one of the more impressive faith-based facilities that I've ever seen called the Impact Center. It's a food and clothing ministry, and they have to comply by Johnson County health regulations. So they have a clean room. So then the day that I took a tour of it, they had Brussels sprouts, and they were packaging, because they get, the Midwest Food Bank brings this in, which you guys should have the Midwest Food Bank guy on. He's awesome. And so they bring in all these big boxes of produce, or Gleaners get stuff from Walmart, and they buy it from their produce vendors and bring it to the packaging centers. And then you have people in hairnets and clean rooms basically sorting out from the big boxes into little bags that are individual portions. And so
if you have the resources to do that,
Yeah.
sure. But in the last 11 years since this law or this ordinance or this law or this authority was granted to the counties, where are the stories of people that have gotten sick from our local food pantries?
I would bet that if you had the people on to ask about this, it was either government coercion saying you need to do this or we're going to start fining you, or it was an insurance company saying we're going to drop your coverage or raise your rates if you don't do this. I bet it would be one of those two things. But it probably was not a need based
Who's
on...
the victim?
Right. It probably was not somebody got salmonella poisoning from Brussels sprouts. It was coercion from some camp.
The victims are the hungry people who won't get their food
Right.
after the food pantries are shut down.
The health department representative said that it is the health department's duty to make sure their food meets the same level of safety as food they would get anywhere else if they had paid for it.
So
Duty means poop.
So I don't think the question, like, I don't want it to come across just like with the teachers thing, because we're getting comments like it's basically, oh, you guys don't support teachers. That's not what we're saying. It's like
You're going for the trifecta. You don't like cops. You don't like teachers.
I'm ready to go after
next.
no parents. That's
Parents.
who I'll
Just
go
parents.
I'll go after DST. When we talk DST, I'll hit the parents.
Boomers.
No, like it should be safe. But like, do we trust the health inspector? Is the one guy who is trying to inspect, or the 5 people that your county employs to inspect every food facility in the county? Are they really it's such a centralization of the resources that for 1 to 5 people in a county this size will be going out and inspecting every kitchen in the city, or the county, I mean. Is that efficient? Do you really think that they're better at... And so when you take the hands out of... When you take the responsibility for safety in the kitchen out of the hands of the people that are doing the work and put it... And you outsource it to the 5 people, people start to get sloppy. And so you end up with worse results in this particular case, where people say, it is my responsibility to make sure this is clean. Instead, now it's going to be, it is my responsibility not to get fined.
Well,
that's a very different proposition.
If you're gonna go, you have the choice to eat the food or not.
Right.
You have visibility into it. You can tell if people look like they're paying attention and they are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Are people
It's
getting sick? Does
literally-
this have a reputation?
It's cans.
Yeah.
Right. What are you? Well, they have milk. Well, how to show me your procedure for how you take care of the milk, and is it temperature controlled, and is it okay? And have we
Yeah.
given?
Yeah, it is.
Have you
'Cause-
paid us our fees to pay for us to come inspect you?
Oh, there you go. Now we've hit on it. Because psychos don't run the food pantry. They're not keeping the milk at 87 degrees because they want to poison people to death. The charitable people who run the food bank aren't like not washing their hands before they touch all the vegetables.
Before they touch cans.
It's the ability for them to fine people. And so we go back to the teacher discussion. With your federal government, they can print money. But your state, federal, and local government, or your state and local governments cannot print money. When their budget says they're out of money, they're out of money and it's not coming from anywhere else unless we start writing you more tickets. We start fining your business more. We start charging user fees more. So, and fees
Start
are really...
making you pay to hand out cans to homeless people.
What politician wants to raise taxes? They don't. So the way that they increase money to the local community is through fees, is through speeding tickets and fining businesses and fining food pantries. And so...
So Chris, were you the executive director of the LPIN in 2008?
October 2008 on.
Where the hell were you at?
He was producing a dual show because Dakota was 12.
So that legislature...
He's not responsible for
Yeah.
this.
So that legislature would have
Exactly.
ended in February. Here's the deal.
Crazy Larry probably called in to complain about this, and you just hung up on him. You didn't put him on the air that day.
I was very sleepy that day. I used to have to get up at 4 to do that show.
Pothole Joe was still just a dream.
It's people wanting a resolution to a problem that they see in their local community because one person isn't washing their hands. Well, there ought to be a law. There ought to be some resolution to this. But a lot of what we do is we just don't think about the consequences. This seemed like a really good idea, and the intentions behind this are a really good idea. But
Nobody wants to get sick.
what about the consequences? What about the efficiency? What about the results? And nobody ever goes back and examines the results of their legislation. And the number one thing that food pantries need, they don't need you dropping off your expired cans of cream of chicken soup.
That's a plug for the Patreon.
Right.
If you want to know what that's all about.
What they need is
Bubonic plague.
right.
people.
What they need is money. So the food pantry at my church needs money more than anything else. They don't need your old clothes. They don't need they'll take it, but they can go with $6,000 and buy from Meijer or from Walmart a big bunch of supplies that people need for their, be it grain or wheat or some other 18th century. But you know what I mean? Like the thing when asked what is the number one thing that you need as in every food pantry I've been in, the answer is always money. Because the way that a food pantry operates is not by people dropping off donations. It's through bulk purchasing from a distributor like Aldi's or Meijer or Walmart, which are like the three biggest that donate to food pantries and work with food pantries. And so the green beans, the canned goods that they're actually using in food pantries was bought with money through Aldi. And so when you're taking fees from a food pantry, you are literally taking the food out of the mouth of children that need to be fed in local communities. It's a despicable law that really needs to be rectified. I mean, it's tragic.
All right, so let's start to wrap things up. Chris, I know for final thoughts, you feel very, very passionately about daylight saving time, and we've been kindred spirits this week as people have tried to complain.
I just don't think that we ought to govern our laws based on the body clock of a toddler. If you can't hold your bowels, you can't hold control of the clock. And so I'm sorry that your little brats are upset that they have to go to bed, but they were going to be upset that they have to go to bed anyways. I don't know what is wrong with toddlers. They don't like food and they don't like sleep. Those are the only two of the only three things that I want to do as an adult. And I just don't understand why parents, every single time change, were subjected.
What the hell?
I'm in the middle of a rant. You're gonna have to go back over there.
What the hell's going on?
I'm punishing boomers right now with my opinions.
Come on in here. Come have a seat.
I'm sorry that your child is upset that the time changed, but buy some blackout curtains and discipline your child. All right. The rest of us are enjoying the extra hour of sunlight in the evening and being productive citizens.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Who are you? I thought you were a band.
What's going on?
This is awkward, buddy. Last week you quit, right? Or we suspended? Weren't you suspended? And
He said I had a drinking problem.
and now here you're late.
I thought we were canceling this show. We were starting a sports podcast share. That was the plan.
Yeah, we're gonna have to dock your pay.
Chris, you can end the Patreon feed. We can start the real show now.
So do you have daylight saving time thoughts? Spangle was eloquently explaining.
Why do we still have it?
What do you mean? Why do we still
Because
have
this is nice.
It's not necessary. Like, why don't we just keep it at this time?
It's really
it?
nice.
We should. President
Yeah.
Trump said the first thing I full-heartedly support. Let's just stay on fast time all year round and stop playing this game of turning back the clocks for 3 months.
It's nice until July, and it's daylight at 9:30 at night.
That's good fishing weather.
Yeah. Why did we go back? It's not necessary anymore, right?
What?
Why'd we ever go back to...
Right now is the
fall
unnatural
back
time.
Yeah, I
Yes.
like this time better, though.
I mean, honestly, if you want to be on Central Time, you're a maniac. Like you're a mouth-breathing troglodyte if you want the state of Indiana to be on Central Time. You want it to be dark at 3:30 in the afternoon. You're an absolute insane person, and you need to burn your...
Yeah,
hold
but
up.
don't you
We
just hate
said
children?
there's a 1 hour difference in daylight savings time. We just said that it's daylight until 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
It's not going to get dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right, we're going to keep the hour in this. It's going to get dark at like 5:30 if we stay on this time, which is preferable.
Right now, but not in July.
In July, it's going to be gloriously light until 10 p.m.
In July, if we didn't do it, I think it would be the sun would come up at like 2 a.m. and the corn would burn. I think that's what would happen.
This is a divisive issue, and I'm sick of it.
Well, listen, whatever time we're on right now doesn't make me want to kill myself. So I'm all for this time. Because during the winter time, it's iffy for me, okay?
What you have to understand about Hoosiers is that they've been arguing this since the creation of the entire time system. When the railroads created the time, it's like, so basically what you had until the railroads, every town had their clock tower. And you drive your locomotive through town, and so what would be noon in one town would be 12:15 in Stylesville. You know, like it would be I don't know what town's close to here, but like
Stylesville.
Hagersville would be at 12:15.
Hagerstown.
Hagerstown.
What the hell is Stylesville?
And it'd be noon here. And so what the railroads did is they basically pushed the creation of the time zones and the standardization of time, and then the agrarian society added DST. And I
The
agree with-
railroad lobbies.
right. And
They're
so
the ones that got us Social Security, too.
so since then, Hoosiers have been arguing about time. We didn't go on DST until the great Mitch Daniels was our governor and solved this problem.
Here, here.
And we're now on the and Hoosiers are still mad about it because we have more jobs. We have people that actually want to invest in Indiana now because of DST, and they're pissed about
Let's
it.
pull the room real quickly on this. Guffey, daylight saving time, yes or no?
No.
No, you want to just go to the time we were on and stay on it?
No, this one.
This one. You want fast time all the
Yeah,
time.
fast
Yeah.
time all the time.
Guffey, Chase.
I've
What
only
the-
been gone 1 week. Fast time. Keep it here.
All right, you
Fast
you
time.
voted. Bilbrey, you
Fast time,
fast time all the time.
all the time.
I really don't care. I have no dog
Just
in
quit
this fight.
changing. Do one
Yeah.
or the other. Just quit changing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The
I
last-
agree with Bilbrey.
No, the
Just
last
stick
time we
with
were
one
here,
of them.
what did I tell you? To be a better host, you have to inflame. I have come on your program, and I have hit cops, I have hit teachers, I have hit parents, and I
I
have
hit
argued.
them all with you.
Right. You will never have more
But you
downloads.
never got behind the wheel and hit them with your. You were the follow car.
Take a stance and provoke, please.
I wrote the show notes. He was the follow car. I was telling him what to talk about.
Dakota, you should take your
The
own
puppet
advice,
master.
and you can choose tomorrow to start being the P word. Okay? Pick
P
a
word.
side. The pussy word, Jared. That's Dakota.
I've been.
That's
you've
my
seen me for 1
slogan.
week and you can't tell us apart.
Trademarked. That should be a new T-chip shirt.
Pick a side, pussy.
Pick a side.
I don't care whether it's the fast time or,
Here's
or
Micah.
standard
He's fired
time.
off of the network.
I just want it
Chase,
to be.
your co-host now. Jeremiah,
I'm
you're
just
fired.
tired of it
Hey,
swapping.
Rays.
I just want it to stick to one and go with it. I'm tired. I hate this the change. It takes me like 3 days to recover. Hate it.
You're ridiculous. You're 22 years old.
Yeah, wait until you're 35. I don't know, how old are you?
37.
37. I
look
wish
a
I
day
were
over 40.
25.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
I would love fast time all year round. If we had central time all year, it would be terrible. It would be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. It's insane. How? Why? Why do you want to? Why do you want to waste every good hour at your job?
Yep.
In the day when all the daylight is when you're at work. When the
I
majority
get
of
off work at
citizens
3, so I
See,
still get.
yeah. So you are.
You'd bask in that glorious hour of daylight that we'd have left.
You'd be the one guy that gets daylight. You're the one person that gets the sunshine.
maniacs.
All right.
At least we're not as
7.
bad as like we went to Tennessee for Thanksgiving. It was literally dark at 4 o'clock.
Because they're on Central Time. That's
Yep.
exactly what
Yep.
you would be suffering through.
It was
And
horrible.
instead, if you had fast time all year round, it would have been dark at 5 o'clock. All right. So that's we cut off Spangle. That was the main thing I wanted on daylight saving time from you. You got some things to promote. You got a new show coming on with Wanda Sykes.
No, how dare you? No. If you like Boss Hog of Liberty, I want to give a shout out to Married with Children down in Southern Indiana. They
Stole our bit.
They did. Well, they started about a year ago, so they did. They stole it, but they didn't know. They're big fans of yours. They mentioned you when I walked in the room. They love Boss Hog, so I want to give them a plug on your show, and hopefully you'll go on their show.
If we get an invitation, we will. Guffey's been handling the request. We have a few of them lined up, and we'll get there eventually.
You should double check that email box.
Yeah, it's true. He's probably put it in the spam folder.
Check
Yeah.
out Leaders and Legends. It's if you're a Hoosier, you're gonna love that show. Check out We Are Libertarians, which is my podcast. If you like my, I'm probably about this level of inflammatory. And yeah, I've got a couple new podcasts coming out. Follow Miss Pat, and I'll be doing something with her. So check that out. Lots of Spangle to go around.
Bilbrey, how do people get in touch? Follow your show. You're registering people to vote. You're doing all of it.
Anybody, if you're not registered to vote, if you've moved, you can go to www.indianavoters with an SVOTERS.com.
Not with a Z, like
Yeah.
a lot of our
It
people
might
do.
get you there. I don't
It's not
know.
1995 anymore.
It takes 2 minutes. You can do it from your laptop. You can do it the old-fashioned way by going to the county clerk's office or your city clerk's office and filling it out in paperwork. That's fine, but do it click off this when you're done watching it. Do it from the device you're watching this on. You have until 11:59 on Monday, April 8th, to vote in this next primary election. Indiana, www.
Your community's having a primary election. Ours canceled it. They
I
saved
know,
the money.
which I thought was brilliant. I hate that nobody was running, but whatever.
We have candidates. They're just not Democrats or Republicans.
Right. www.indianavoters.com. Register to vote. You can find me on Facebook. I'm getting ready in the next couple weeks, months to be kicking over to a podcast forum, which I'll just be putting on Facebook. But I'll be around. You can find me on Facebook, Kristopher with a K, Kristopher Bilbrey, Bilbrey.
And you'll be tagged in the show notes on this and on our Facebook Live page. Dakota, what's your final thought? You got a morsel or two for us?
Not really. I do.
Shocking.
I do want to plug a couple things really quick. I want to plug the T-Chip sites. My favorite shirt design is tchip.com/BHOL3, which is a small logo, and then it has local stories, national impact on the back.
None of these say local celebrity.
No. Not like the last ones did. We got some flack on that.
Danny bought one,
was
found
my
out it had
mistake.
local celebrity, and screamed. He was
Well,
not pleased.
You were supposed to only be paying extra. If you paid extra, you got one that said local celebrity. Instead,
They all came like that.
they all came like that. So it was a whole mess. Anyway, I want to promote T-Chip. Hopefully they don't mess anything
Typical
up.
weird libertarians.
Yeah.
Just a wall production from the front
how
to
it
the
happens.
back.
failed on the T-shirt making.
We have a cool sweatshirt too, right?
Yeah.
So you
That's
can get the cool sweatshirt for the rest of the winter. So you can wear it for like 2 more weeks. It'll be great.
I'm ordering the sweatshirt. I
It
really
looks
like it.
dope.
I'm very
Looks pretty
excited
sweet.
about that.
And
I'll
then,
probably get 2 of them.
And then
Get your sweatshirts now, just in time for summer.
In time for Dakota to change the logo again before you can actually wear it.
we have too much. We're way too invested in this logo at this point. So also another thing is we have a full page ad in the Libertarian Party state convention pamphlet or booklet that they'll give out. Have a whole full page in there. It's pretty sweet. So make sure that you can check that out. There's still time to sign up for the Libertarian Party of Indiana convention. You can go to lpin.org and you can sign up there. It's in Fort Wayne this year. So if you want to see us, then you can go up there and check it out. And even producer Chris will be at this one.
Shout out to Christy Avery, who is putting it on, and anybody who has ever put on a convention knows she has
It's a big deal, and she's been a big part.
It's the least enviable job in the entire party.
All right. So my final thoughts. I want to have a quick conversation with you guys because I want some feedback because it's a market situation. And a bunch of governments got involved this week as Boeing had a new airplane that started crashing.
747.5?
Yeah, the Max 8 or whatever the heck it is. It's the newest It's the 747 that uses the least amount of fuel. And as a consumer, we always talk about markets, and markets will take care of it, and it'll be okay. But all of a sudden, the United States found itself to be the one country yesterday that didn't have a ban on this plane operating. They've had 2. It's brand new. They've been out in service for about 4 months. One crashed about 3 months ago, and then over the weekend, one in Africa crashed. That was a state-operated plane.
You know why we didn't have a ban? Because Orange Man bad.
Well, so the reason that it's really getting a lot of attention is it was full of UN people in the one in Africa that crashed, and so that's why everybody freaked out.
So this plane goes down, and it's something that's operated all over the world. Southwest Airlines had about 40 of them. They were operating out of Indianapolis, so it was something that was happening in our local market. I'm booked on a Southwest flight next month. My wife Sarah and I are supposed to fly to California next month on a Southwest plane. So at this point, markets are supposed to make decisions, right? So you say, well, I'm not going to support this company if I don't believe in what you're doing, and if I think you're putting me at risk, then I don't want to buy a ticket from you. Well, if I bought a ticket 3 months ago and all of a sudden you have a problem and I have no guarantee of my safety, am I going to cancel my ticket? How do I make that decision? So that's where you have this conversation that starts to develop of, should these airlines be voluntarily pulling and saying, hey, we're going to ground these planes until we figure out what's going on? Or is it, well, no, we don't know what's going on. It might be bad training. There could be any number of things, and we need to be supporting these companies. Or is it, No, the government needs to step in and say time out, ban them, and protect everybody.
Well, at this point, it's a combination of all of it. But you have to look at the countries and where these planes were operating. The United States has not had a commercial airliner crash since the 70s or 80s. I mean, it's been like 30 years.
No, you're wrong.
No,
No,
I'm not wrong.
ValueJet in Florida crashed. TWA had a plane over outside of
when
Long
we were
Island.
kids, is my point.
That wasn't the 70s, Grandpa.
But it's been like 30 years. I mean, the number is like when you think about the sheer percentages. Look at it this way: how many planes when you see like this storm that just hit the Midwest and Colorado, like you see thousands of planes get grounded. And you realize how many planes are in the air at any given time. And then we haven't had one of those crash since Jeremiah and I were in diapers.
2009.
But like hundreds of people dying, like other than 9/11. It's you have smaller planes go down.
10 years though. I mean, a whole
Right.
decade without one.
Even if it were 5 years, the number of flights that land safely in the United States.
And that's where you say it's very
Right.
much sensationalized, right?
It's very much sensationalized.
Thousands of
and this
cars
is an
crash every
overreaction,
day,
yes.
and nobody cares. A plane crashes and
It's
everybody
just like
freaks out.
the Tesla that happened to get in a wreck that was using the
Yeah.
self-driving feature. It's like, okay, but there are literally thousands of crashes of cars every day, and no one pays attention to that.
And the woman
right?
that died in the self-driving car, most people don't know she had a mental illness and she ran in front of the car on purpose. Like, you never get into the granular details. You just are supposed to be afraid. And so
that's a good soundbite right there.
yeah. There you go. Pull that. I'll stop.
It's a conversation where you want to think that markets can make these decisions. And if I feel like once again the government short-circuited what could have happened, where there could have been public pressure on the companies that operate these planes in our country.
But at what cost? Are we going to wait for hundreds of people to lose their lives?
You know, it's a voluntary deal. You don't have
That's
to
a
get on.
yes. That was a yes.
You can change. I could have said nope. You know what? We're taking Amtrak. No, we're gonna take. We're gonna change to somebody that operates a little Canada Air instead of a Boeing plane.
So 2005 was the last year with more than 1,000 deaths on commercial flights, and that trend has continued its downward trajectory, culminating in 2017's historic level of safety. The accident rate now stands at one fatal passenger flight accident per 7,360,000 flights.
So people who are scared of flying,
And
you
this
got nothing
is
to be worried about.
this is all
Terrified.
of air travel.
You're terrified of
Yeah,
flying?
I heard
Yes.
what went wrong with these planes is they built them by all
You
the
have
wind
nothing
farms.
to be worried about.
Yes.
It was wind farms. All right,
Yes,
yeah.
that's always the problem.
I heard that they used a doughboy to hammer all the rivets instead of
well, you've gone for the trifecta. Darren Jacobs was involved somewhere.
the doughboy should have been moved, and you need wind farms here. You're an idiot if you don't like wind.
Good God. All right, last. Do you have final thoughts?
I have final thoughts.
You got a microphone, buddy.
I have final thoughts, people.
Chase Peyton, well, thanks for joining us. You were very late.
I know. I've watched the whole episode.
He blinks. I love how he.
So I have some updates for the NFL free agency, man. The Browns are actually going to be good.
The best meme I've seen
Yeah.
so far is if you didn't love the Browns when they lost by 30, you can't love them when they lose by 10.
Listen, they have a top 5 receiver in OBJ, and they have a top 5 running back with Kareem Hunt. He's also a really good kicker.
Oh, God.
So, you know why he's a good kicker?
That's a domestic
Dakota?
violence joke. You can't do that. That's not
Give me
okay.
the microphone back.
Hold on.
I see why they suspended you.
Sunday is St. Patty's Day. Make sure you wear your green. I got my new shirt. So, make sure you drink a lot.
You got a Notre Dame shirt on. Congratulations. That's beautiful.
Nice Barstool shirt.
Yep.
Supporting our buddy Jeff Ibbert.
Go, Jeff Fibbert.
You broke the studio, Chase. This is
Yeah,
you're not going to lift a finger to
All
fix
right,
it
folks.
either.
Your
take it
ham
out.
hands have been mauling
Folks,
this particular.
we will see you next week. The
No,
microphone's falling off
One
the table.
more thing. IndyCar announcement. Fernando Alonso is running Texas. That's news. That is breaking news. In F1 legend, Fernando Alonso will run the Texas IndyCar race. With that, we will see you all next week.
Hold on.
Hey, you got us a big guest next week, right?
Oh, man, I'm so excited about this guest. Kent Benson,
Ooh,
hometown hero.
nice.
Number 1 pick in the NBA draft.
Number
That's
1
crazy.
pick in 78.
Is that Steve Alford's little brother?
No.
Okay, you're
I thought you were
offending
the
even me
sports
now.
Mr.
I'm
Indiana,
offended.
73. 77 IU undefeated team.
All right, that's enough of this. We're very excited to have had Dear Leader come by and check up on us. He didn't cancel us, so it went okay.
I thought about it.
You're proud of us,
Yeah, of course. You guys are doing a great job.
Chase.
The
Chase.
show literally started with Chris saying, "Cancel the show immediately."
Chase came by 1 week in a row of him being fired and stopping in anyway. And Bilbrey, we appreciate very much the support you've shown us,
Thank you.
We're excited about what you've got going. And you're part of East Central Indiana. You never be East Central Indiana's favorite podcast, but maybe the second.
You give it a shot though. I'm looking for a brand new East Central Indiana podcast. So,
He's in the market.
yeah.
All right, we will see you all next week.